me ring in. Good morning to you, Grenada, our sister isles of Carriacou, Petit Martinique, the rest of the Eastern Caribbean, the world. Good morning. How's everybody doing? It's Monday, and it's actually the 15th day of August 2022. Welcome to today's edition of To The Point. GT with you this morning. I'll be sitting in there for a wee bit this morning. And lots to go through this morning. Lots to talk about as usual. We're expecting a guest this morning. And for some reason, I have not seen the guests chiming with us as yet. So I guess we just start the show without when they do pop in. We certainly will entertain them. All right, we should be having two guests, one for the first half and one for the second half of the show. But the first half of the show, the guest hasn't popped in as yet. So as soon as the individual do pop in, we will entertain them. So once again, good morning to one and all. Welcome to those of you via GBN TV. Good morning. How are you doing? Hope all is well with you. Hope you had a great weekend. How's my weekend? How could I describe my weekend? A good one. Just a simple description of it. A good weekend. Certainly hope yours was fantastic. All the good words that you could use to describe it in a really awesome nature. Certainly hope you could use those words to describe your weekend. Let me say good morning to those of you via our social media page this morning. Facebook to be precise. Good morning to our Facebook viewers and listeners there this morning. How is everybody doing? Hope all is well. And certainly hope you're doing A-OK. And as I mentioned when I was shouting out the folks who are viewing via GBN TV, what's your weekend? Those of you out there in the diaspora, even locally. Yeah, hope you had an awesome weekend also. Those of you listening via K105, good morning to you. You love the frequencies. Good morning to you. Hope you're doing A-OK also. So for this segment, we as I said, we were supposed to have a guest popping in with us this morning. The guest has not shown up as yet. As soon as the guest show up, well, of course, whether it's via Zoom or in person, we certainly entertain them. So, you know the number, 435-2041-435. Lots of conversations are going on around the entire island right now. And whether it's to do with your personal synopsis of Carnival 2022 or you want to chit-chat this morning pertaining to the issues pertaining to, the Alison Peters issue. You want to chime in on that? So we're going to open the line, maybe for the first half an hour of the show this morning until then. Let's. I feel we already have a caller who wants to chime in with us this morning. Let's see if we can entertain this caller. I'm not sure the direction. Callers, and to be precise, I would like folks to keep the information they like to share with us to the point. Yeah, all right? Keep it short and precise, and let's not drag it off too long, and let me kind of stay on topic, all right? Good morning to you, caller. How are you?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm calling concerning the area of what takes place on both sides.
You're talking to the Alison Peters issue pertaining to that particular ship there.
Peter, and also the carnival that they didn't please with.
Okay.
Now, mankind had to understand. These things are carnality. And in carnality, you expect these kind of behavior patterns. So what are they complaining about? No, the Lord does not like these things, and He doesn't please with these behavior patterns. And He said righteousness exalts a nation, and sin does become a reproach. Reproach is shame. So when these things come upon them, they have to understand that it's because of where their heart is, their treasure is. So then learn to behave themselves wisely. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, caller. So to get your point, we're probably going to take another caller too. I think my guests have chimed in with me this morning, and so we will entertain that individual shortly. Probably going to have time to maybe take another caller or two. Then we can take a break and come back and get in with the conversation with the guest this morning. It's to the point. It's Monday, the 15th day of August. Good morning to one and all. Let's grab another caller quickly and see. Caller, good morning. How are you?
Hi, good morning, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. What about you this morning?
I'm fine, thanks.
All right.
Is it open line this morning, sir?
Just for a short period, I would say. Just for a short period. We're going to be wrapping it up shortly.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to be very brief, right? My concern is that Grenadians, right? Everything is always a blame game. And most of the times, we blame the government. Most of the times, we blame those on the top, like the government and the Prime Minister and this and that. But I think in Grenada, it's time for us to start changing the people in the middle. Because we keep changing government, we keep changing those at the top, but the problem still exists and it even gets worse. So I think sometimes now we need to change the people in the middle. For example, there are certain schools that only breed violence. So when you watch your graduates and stuff, it keeps repeating itself. Yet for we don't change the principal at the schools. We just say, well, there's a bad school, all the children that come, they bad. And this and that. You understand where I'm coming from, sir?
I get your point.
Yes.
But we can't always say that. You can't blame the principal for the school breeding violence. You can't blame the principal.
No, I'm not saying that. I said there's just a pattern that specific schools.
All right.
When you watch at the teenage violence and say there's specific schools, it's specifically come from there. And for years, but we don't change it to the school principal or we don't change things. Right. The next example, Carnival and Guap has been deteriorating for years. For years, Carnival and Guap has been deteriorated. Our Monday night mass, everything has gone down the drain. Yet, for we don't change the people in the middle, who is the people that run the St. John's Cultural Organization. So sometimes now we need to stop blaming the government. Yes, we have a change of government and stuff, but the problem remains the same. We need to start changing the people at the middle, sir.
All right. Thanks for your contribution this morning, Colin.
Okay.
All right. It's to the point. It's Monday, the 15th day of August. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we entertain our guest this morning. Stay with us here on To The Point. GT with you, folks. We're coming right back.
I want you to control your anger. There's a way to feel better. That's one thing to remember. No matter where you are, you can be a star. Stop and take a deep breath. And relax yourself. Take another deep breath. And relax it. Eliminate violence.
Feel good facts. Help prevent cold and flu by washing your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. That's the time it takes to remove most germs. No soap and water? No worries when you've got alcohol-based hand sanitizer.
You know, one day I woke up and, they painted a set of pedestrian crossing all along the streets. Nobody told us how to use that thing properly.
I know how.
You're serious?
Every safe, good driver knows about these things. As a driver, you have to be very attentive. You know you're coming up close to a pedestrian cross, you start slowing down immediately, looking to see if there's any pedestrian on the side getting ready to cross. If there is, you stop on the line that is a certain distance before the crosswalk. Then you would see the pedestrian put their hands out, looking directly at you, indicating that they are going to cross. And only when you have come to a complete stop, that is when they will quickly and safely cross to the other side. And then you continue happily on your...
We say welcome back to our listeners and viewers. It's To The Point for today, Monday, the 15th day of August. Exactly 10 minutes going after 9 o'clock here on K105 GBN TV. Good morning to our social media platforms this morning. Whether you're viewing or listening via our website, that's gbn.gd, or you're listening on viewing via Facebook or even the YouTube channel. Good morning to you and welcome back once again. I did mention, of course, in the intro this morning, we were expecting a guest, and our guest is with us this morning. There's a saying, it's better late than never at all. So we have Mr. Pierre with us this morning, and we're going to go over to him and say good morning. Probably going to give us a little bit of a formal introduction about himself, and we're getting to having that chit-chat with him here this morning here on To The Point. Let me say good morning to you, Mr. Pierre. How you doing? Good morning to you once again.
Good morning, and good morning, Grenada. It's good to be on GBN.
To The Point?
To the point.
Yes.
To the point. To the point.
All right.
Yes. It is a beautiful morning this morning.
All right. Now, give us a little feedback, especially for the viewers and listeners. Folks may be a little bit acquainted with you. I, for myself, is like a first time having a conversation with you, per se. Lovely to have a conversation.
I think this is the first time I've had an interview with you.
Yes.
I think I've done interviews with some of your colleagues.
Other colleagues before.
Yes.
Right.
Well, my name is Pierre, and I work at the National NADMA, right? National Disaster Management Agency. Okay. I'm also a district coordinator for the South St. George district. Okay, and And we here this morning to chat a little bit about disaster, hurricane season, prevention plans and so forth, all related to disaster management.
All right. We're going to go through as the morning progresses. Now, you've been part of DAGMA, and it's all about disaster management and how you folks take care of that in terms of dispersing information when you receive and so forth. How is things at MAGMA in terms of preparation? Because we're into the season right now, the hurricane season per se. All right.
Well, the issue of preparation is always an ongoing something. There is no way one can prepare enough. But there are a lot of things that needs to be done still, and a lot of things that have been done already. Okay, but as far as I'm concerned, we are relatively poised, properly poised, to be able to respond to, we are in the hurricane season, so we are relatively poised to respond to the issues of hurricane. All
right. Now, in terms of plans and the planning process, how does NAGMA go about the plans, especially during a hurricane season? What some of the do's and don'ts that MAGMA get into in terms of
but let me before we actually talk about the office NAGMA, okay? Let us talk about individuals, because at the end of the day, it comes down to individuals, the preparation of the individual. Now, you have the office, and the office might be able to respond after and coordinate response and so after. But to really safeguard lives and so, it comes down to individuals doing what they have to do in their private homes, for themselves, with their families, businesses, and so doing what they need to do to ensure that they protect their life and their property. All right. So it really and truly, the work of NAGMA really and truly is among the individuals in our communities and in our districts across the Tri-Island state. Okay, so we have encouraged persons to have their family plan. If you hear about a storm watch or a storm warning, persons have to make the preparations at their homes to ensure that the things that they value the most is really and truly safeguarded. Okay. One of the things that we encourage persons first and foremost to do is to listen to the radio, listen to your media, find out exactly what's going on. We would get information from our Met Office about the system or so. We would send out information, but we could only send it out when we get it, if you understand what I'm saying.
I'm understanding that.
Right. And when you get it, there are things that one must do in terms of response. So, for example, you get a hurricane warning, and that should come about 48 hours before. So there's just a warning that there is a system that is coming and it may impact the island. So you get that. What you need to do, or what you should have done even before, because we are in the hurricane season, is to put a plan in place as to what you need to do. For example, you need to know where your shelters are. Okay, you need to know if you have a vehicle, you need to gas it up. You have to save water. You should have some tinned foods, and so just in case it's a hurricane and just like Hurricane Ivan, we are blown to bits. Okay, so you need to have those things. All your documents, medication. You need to maybe stock up on medication just in case we have a shutdown, and you would need to have medication for a prolonged period. You need to have put aside your documents, your passport, your birth certificates, your certificates, for your education, academic purposes, and so forth, for your employment. You safeguard. Put that. Maybe you get Ziploc bags, plastic bags. Put those things in. Have a one bag that if you know that you have to evacuate your house or so, you'll just be able to pick up that bag and run.
All right.
You need to, for example, persons who have pets and they have children, you need to make sure that they are taken care of. You have all your milk and your medication and your diapers and all of that. You need to have those things in stock so that definitely if it is a serious situation, you have things that could last a couple of days before you could actually get help.
So it's important about your personal plan of personal preparedness.
That's correct.
When it comes to that. So that's
correct.
And that's a sort of initiative that NAGMA would like to encourage individuals,
right.
especially in June this season right now. There may be times when there's a calm, but still you don't have to loosen up, or as we would say in local terms, or just slow down.
You can't just relax all the time.
Because sometimes we saw that happen a couple of weeks ago when we had that sort of a freak weather condition.
Freak storm per
se. And most folks were unprepared for that. You understand? Because sometimes these things could happen without the adequate notice, as we would love to have that, as you said earlier, that 48 hours in terms of getting the warnings and so forth. But not always that could be in place. You understand? So your personal preparedness is always important. And
let me also add, for any nation to really bounce back properly, it really takes the individuals or the population, the masses, to be able to do that. Now, we would consider something as a disaster when the authorities, it goes beyond the response or the resources that the authorities have. Everything else is considered a hazard.
Right.
So when we hit disaster proportions, it means that the government cannot respond, regardless of what government is in power and how much money they have. They may not be able to respond because it's a disaster.
Right.
Okay, they will have to get assistance from the outside to help build back. But in the initial phase, individuals, if they do what is necessary to be done in terms of preparation, have all the stuff together and so forth, you can expect people to bounce back a little faster simply because they have been prepared.
All right. Now, let's chat a wee bit in terms of NAGMA's position, in terms of individuals, having themselves during the course of sheltering, per se, after or during, of course, a weather condition. We don't want to go too much of a disaster nature yet, but during a particular, hazard, per se. Right. In terms of shelter, what is NAGMA's position on that?
Well, we have districts, and these districts. Let me just. I think it is 15 or 16 districts. All right, or constituencies. The same way we have the electoral constituencies, we have districts in that very same regard. Okay, so within each of those districts, there are shelters. All right, more often than not, schools, community centers, some churches are used as shelters. Okay?
All right.
And under each district, we have what is called district committees. Okay, so we have district committees, and in those district committees, we have shelter committees. All right? So the shelter committees will be responsible for the shelters in each of the districts. Now, to be able to man that, NAGMA needs volunteers.
All right.
And I want to say that I want to really echo that there is need for volunteers, for persons to come out and volunteer. Now let me just go back to Hurricane Ida. Grenadians volunteered their service after the passage of Hurricane Ida.
Yep.
All right. The day after, persons were just out there working. I could recall, a group of us went from where I lived around, and we were cutting down trees that were blocking the road. The guys come out with their chainsaws, and people just stepped up to the plate and did what they had to do just to be able to give free access and so. So we have the shelters, all right. You would have shelter managers, and under each of those shelters, you have a committee that deals with a number of things. So you have things like security, like persons who would maybe do cooking, and so persons would come in, they would take names and all of that, know exactly who are in the shelters, what are some of the things that they need. Okay, so each of these shelters would have a group of persons that would man or manage the shelter. Okay, every year before the hurricane season, these shelters are inspected. Okay, the problems that they may have are sent. Cabinet would approve the shelters, and the shelter list would be published. Okay, so people need to know exactly where the shelters are. So in case you live in a house, you're not. I'm sure if the house would be able to withstand the force of a hurricane or a storm or so, you have a shelter to go to. But before you even think about getting into the shelter, these shelters has to be activated first and foremost. So it's not a situation where, you hear a storm coming and you want them to open the shelter. No. There are protocols that we must follow. So if for example there is a situation that is coming, there's a system that is coming, and we know that there are places where persons might be most vulnerable. There may be a lot of wooden houses. These wooden houses don't have hurricane straps, and so we may think about activating shelters in that particular locale, so persons know that they have an opportunity to be able to visit the shelter or go to the shelter, but the shelter must be activated first. The activation of the shelter really says that you would have persons there to receive you, okay, and to provide you with shelter, with all the things that a shelter would provide. Now, when a person have to go to a shelter, there are things that person must walk with. You need to walk with some food stuff that would last for at least 3 days. You need to walk with all your documents, some bedding, and all of that has to be done before you actually enter the shelter. When you enter the shelter, we cannot accommodate things like your pets and all of that. So you may have to make provision for them. So, for example, you have a cow and a goat, you can't bring that into the shelter. All right. You can't bring your cat and your dog into the shelter. No.
Before you move on, let me just ask you this before. Who is actually responsible for shelter activating shelters?
Right. The NADMA head office would do the activation, but the activation comes when we have what we call the EOC, Emergency Operations Center. Mm-hmm. When that is activated, okay, all the district coordinators are contacted, okay, then they would say, okay, well, we have X place, X village, constitute a lot of wooden houses, and so there's a shelter in the area. On advice from the district coordinators and from the advisory body that basically sort of governs some of the activity of NADMA, they would say, okay, let us activate some of the shelters. That too comes from the minister who is in charge of NADMA, saying that we need to activate some of these shelters.
And another question I would like to get in there also, in terms of the process of activation. Mm-hmm. You understand? And getting the whole process started. That only comes about after knowing that there's going to be a weather that is going to be severe, a condition that is going to be severe. I mean, you're not going to just run and activate shelters and stuff like that.
Very well.
You understand?
Very well. Mm-hmm. Very well. Now, so we talk about a hurricane or a storm watch, a storm warning. Now, if we are on the storm watch, it means that we may be impacted within 36 hours.
Okay.
All right? And that is when we would consider the activation of the shelters.
All right.
Okay? So the warning would come first, and then we are on the storm watch, because more likely than not, within 36 hours, we may be impacted.
All right.
Okay? So when we are undergoing a watch, Then the issue of activation of shelters, and so a lot of other protocols will be put in place. You have the activation of the EOC, you have the advice from cabinet, and so telling us that look, this is the situation, this is the decision. The council, the advisory council for NADMA would meet, and they would say, okay, well, we need to activate the EOC, and we have reviewed some of the more vulnerable areas, and we would activate shelters here, there, etc., etc. The coordinators, the district coordinators would be contacted, and they would begin to put that into play, the activation of the shelters into play, and we have shelters activated.
All right.
Then we would send the messages would be sent on the radio and so into the media, telling persons that shelters in this area, that area have been activated, so persons can go there to safeguard.
Okay, let's just go back a wee bit to a previous statement you made pertaining to the volunteering. How can an individual who is interested maybe in volunteering in NAGMA, how is that process of being able to volunteer for NAGMA?
We are going to, I think there are plans a little later on down the road to really and truly formalize the whole issue of volunteering, the volunteerism. But persons, we in each of our districts, right? We have district coordinators. You get in touch with your district coordinator, and you basically would give your name, and they would tell you exactly what you need to do. There might be forms that you will have to sign up and so, and they would be the ones to accept you on their committee. All right. Basically, that is how it is now. I know definitely that changes will be made.
Is there an issue going forward? Let me just ask this also. Is there an issue of skill base in terms of individuals wanting to have skill base? You may have a particular skill, and they will say, hey, because you have that particular skill, you may be wanted.
Exactly. You're hitting the nail right on the head. There are persons that are skilled in particular areas that certainly we would welcome as part and parcel of the whole volunteerism of volunteering for disaster management. Now, one of the things that our district coordinators are charged with is to go into the communities to look at some of the resources that we have there, plus individual resources. All right. So, for example, if you have nurses, doctors, farmers, you need to know who are the persons in your community and what skills they have.
All right.
So that when we come to the issue of volunteerism, we know definitely that this person, is best suited in that particular thing. Now, we are not just talking about hurricane. We know that there might be nurses and so in our community. We talk about nurses first and foremost. You may have even teachers in our community, all right? And we could use the skills that they have to assist in education, for example, about disaster management, in education about things generally, so that we could really build back that sort of community spirit that we want. Now, you have a fire, for example, in your community. Okay, somebody get burned or so. You may need some first aid before the ambulance or the arrives, and so you have persons who might be trained in first aid, for example. All right, and they are able to respond immediately. Okay, you then, for example, with a fire, you contact the district coordinator. The district coordinator may contact the Ministry of Social Development to be able to give some assistance, and that is how we really and truly operate to ensure that persons are safe, and we provide as much as we can for individuals when they have faced with some negative issues.
Let me ask this before we go to our break. It's just a thought that came to me. NAGMA position is, or what does NAGMA actually responsible for? Is it only disaster of hurricanes and these kind of disasters?
No.
As you went to the issue of talking about fires and stuff like that, it just kind of struck a nerve with me there. What are the other responsibilities?
We are responsible for all hazards.
Hazards, okay.
Right? So fire is a hazard. Okay? Sure. So one of the first things we are very concerned when persons, for example, their house get burned. okay? And we know definitely that coordinators and so do respond, okay? You may not necessarily see them, although it is always better to see them. But behind the scenes, they might be making the contact, calling up social development, getting in touch with individuals so that some sort of response can be had, to alleviate the pain and the suffering that persons may undergo.
Okay, and nice to hear that.
So it is not just those big things. It is those things that affect community and affect people generally.
So there could be an accident happening sometime where folks are involved, and
that's right.
It may be critical.
Now, for example, our coordinators are trained. Okay, so for example, let's say there's a bad car accident. One of the things that you before the police even arrive, one of the things that you want to do is sort of cordon off the area and sort of have an incident command system going, so that you get persons or maybe away from the accident. Each of the coordinators should be trained in first aid to be able to accommodate persons, in a safe way, removing them from the accident and and assisting them initially without and being able to control the crowd, have a sort of incident command, so that when the police and so arrive, things are basically under control and they could hand over information, vital information, so to be able to assist.
That's crucial information indeed, because sometimes folks may not know that all of the responsibilities of NAGMA. You understand? And holistically, sometimes I would probably always think all NAGMA responsible is just that when there's a hurricane or some disaster, as you say, or hazard, you say. But there are different forms of hazard that takes place that way NAGMA falls into place and offer the assistance.
So, of course, persons within the district and so will have to be on site. If there's nobody on site, of course, that is something that we have basically no control over.
I understand. Because sometimes as a whole, folks may not know that. You understand? And maybe if an individual in a particular community knows, well, this individual is part of NAGMA and they know there's a hazard happened, they could probably get in contact and have them come and offer the assistance that they should do. Mr. Pierre, let's take a short break and we come back and we should chat some more. Stay with us. It's To The Point here on GBN TV and the K105. We're coming right back after the short break. Don't touch it out.
One day I woke up and they painted a set of pedestrian crossing all along the streets. Nobody told us how to use that thing properly.
I know how.
You're serious?
Every safe, good driver knows about these things. As a driver, you have to be very attentive. You're coming up close to a pedestrian cross, you start slowing down immediately, looking to see if there's any pedestrian on the side getting ready to cross. If there is, you stop on the line that is a certain distance before the crosswalk. Then you would see the pedestrian put their hands out, looking directly at you, indicating that they are going to cross. And only when you have come to a complete stop, that is when they will quickly and safely cross to the other side. And then you continue happily on your journey.
Stop, look, hand out, eye contact, wait for pedestrian to cross. Then you happily continue on your journey.
This message is brought to you by this group of insurance companies, the Traffic Advisory Body, and the Traffic Department.
Vaccine.
We're back here on K105, GBN TV. Good morning to our social media platforms, especially those of you via Facebook. Good morning and welcome back. It's To The Point for today, Monday, the 15th day of August. And don't forget, viewers and listeners, especially those of you via our Facebook page, if you do have a question that you would like to ask, probably something in your mind pertaining to the operation of NAGMA that you would like to ask, of course, just a bit of inquiry. Also our Facebook, as I said, our Facebook and also our WhatsApp. If there's, of course, something information you would like to get more information about, you can certainly chime in via the WhatsApp or even via Facebook. Welcome back once again. And I'm seeing we have one question here before we continue, Mr. Pierre. I'm seeing someone via WhatsApp is asking a question pertaining to numbers in terms of if you want to inquire with NAGMA, if there's a number of folks would like to call. If you would like to, welcome back, Mr. Pierre.
Thank you.
Have you on screen there? And I didn't even realize I'm talking. We got you back live. Is there a number per se, if folks is interested in, before we go into other conversation this morning, is there a number per se that you would like to disperse to the viewing and listening audience this morning in terms of individual wanting to get in contact with NAGMA per se? Before we, although I had that per se as a question I would like to ask you when we're going to wrap up the conversation this morning, maybe you can still.
Yeah, but this is maybe a good time to
throw it in. Yes.
Talk about the number. Yes. The numbers are 440-8391, 8392, 8394.
So that's
8393, 8394.
So that's good. Repeat the number once again.
440 8391. 2, 3, and 4.
All right. So 440-8391, 440-23.
No, 839. You're just adding one to the the numbers that go on as you go along. Okay. So 839, 8391, 839, 8393, 8394. I think those are the telephone numbers.
Okay, great. Now let's continue with the conversation this morning. And in terms of, we're probably going to take a couple of calls after. There are probably individuals out there who may be interested in, of course, asking a question or two. Now let's go. We know from time to time, we do know that NAGMA is responsible for certain exercises that takes place in terms of getting individuals prepared, just in case, as you say, a hazard or a disaster. First and foremost, tell us what some of the exercises that NAGMA usually gets involved in or assist in some way or the other in terms of what we do have when you folks do get into that.
Right. Now, there are other hazards, all right, that exist in Grenada. We have Kikam Gini. We have, and that is a marine volcano that, could pose some problems for us. And, not just it being, exploding, but it can also cause tidal wave or tsunamis. Okay, we do have a lot of flooding. All right, when we have a lot of heavy rains. All right, so those are some of the other hazards that we have to consider. Fire, we do have bushfires. Thank God we didn't have much this year. But I can remember there was a year when we had more than about 100 and something bushfires. So true. Yeah. So one of the things that we, of course, if we have not had this, but it can happen where somebody may visit a school and decide to run amok with a cutlass or something of the sort. Okay, so those are just some of the things that can happen. We did have COVID, which is a medical hazard, and we had to do. There are things that we had to do. But I know in some past years we have had a number of exercises. Okay, the airport just recently this year had an exercise, and we have exercises so that persons could be better prepared just in case we have a real event happening. We have had exercises, for example, in the north of the island, such as where we prepared for a tsunami, and I can't remember the exact year that took place, but it happened sometime in the past.
It was 2018, if I was right, sometime in 2018.
Yeah, I think it's around 2017, 2018, somewhere there about. But I think there were more than one. Where persons, all the schools, businesses, and so. They had an exercise where they had to evacuate after hearing an alarm sounding. Persons evacuate. I was part and parcel of that, and people responded. So you had the schools evacuating from the low-lying areas into higher ground. Persons gathered, and you had to do head count and all of that. So let me tell you, those exercises are critical. And I would say, and I would give you a reason why. Those exercises are very, very critical. I had the privilege of being deployed through CDMA to St. Vincent in the wake of the Soufriere volcano. All right, but about 3 or 4 weeks after the eruption of the volcano. Now, you would have known that nobody lost their life in St. Vincent. Okay, nobody lost their life in St. Vincent because of the volcano, and that had a lot to do with exercises, education, and community cooperation.
Okay.
Right, where persons knew exactly what they had to do. They know that the volcano was pretty active. It was emitting gases, and an explosion was imminent. Okay, so it was advised that persons pack bags, get organized. Buses were told what to do and so forth, and that came because of constant exercises. So on the day when the explosion actually occurred, persons just moved. They grabbed their bags, buses were there, and they just moved, and nobody sustained any serious damage, and there were no loss of life because of that.
Okay.
That is what we plan. The intention of exercises does. It allows persons to be prepared. Right, and they give them, it almost trains your muscle, trains your brain to respond in a particular way, so that you're not helter-skelter all over the place, but you respond to be able to safeguard your life and property.
All right.
Okay?
All right. I mean, and that's interesting to know, because these preparedness exercises, per se, they do, as you said, they do go a long way in terms of getting people in that mental readiness. You understand? When people get themselves, ready mentally, because sometimes, as you said, in the case of St. Vincent, if individuals were not getting that opportunity to practice in terms of making themselves ready for when the hazard or disaster of that nature happens, you know what happens, you know what can happen then. Folks are doing things out of the ordinary, and it could be more problems than they would bargain for. All right, folks, it's to the point here on GBN TV.
Could you just to let you know, we have the beautiful Miss Crosby.
Good morning to Oslyn. I see Oslyn is joining us. Maybe you.
Hold on, let me see if I can get access to that.
I think we do have a perfect picture of her with you now. Yes. Good morning. Yes, I think it's okay in terms of her being in the picture with you.
KJ, you hearing me?
Yes, we are hearing you loud and clear. Yes, we hear that. Good morning to you, Oslyn. How you doing?
Hold on.
All right. Hey, folks, it's to the point here this morning. It's Q105 at GBN TV. We're talking to the folks at NAGMA this morning. We do have Mr. Otto Pierre with us. Me and him been having that earlier chit-chat. Been joined by Oslyn Crosby, and she's also going to share some information. I'm seeing lots of folks I've been getting numerous calls, have not yet started taking the phone calls.Maybe in the final couple of minutes of the show, we may take a couple of phone calls.
But you're hearing me. I'm trying to share. Just give me 1 second. Let me see if I can.
Sure.
I can get this.
As they're getting themselves prepared, they're just a wee bit this morning before we do entertain them back live with us. And I'm seeing my phone is going. I'm not sure if I should take that call, because they are getting themselves a little bit sorted out in terms of getting Oslyn in terms of able to hear me, per se. And as soon as that is taken care of, we go back live. It's to the point here on K105. Let's take a short break while they get themselves sorted out. And when we come back, we'll be able to have that final discussion with the folks at NAGMA. Let's take a break. We're coming right back.
I want you to control your anger. There's a way to feel better. That's one thing to remember. No matter where you are, you can be a star. Stop and take a deep breath. Relax yourself. Take another deep breath. Relax it. Eliminate violence.
Feel good facts. Help prevent cold and flu by washing your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. That's the time it takes to remove most germs. No soap and water? No worries when you've got alcohol-based hand sanitizer.
You know, one day I woke up and, you know, they painted a set of pedestrian crossing all along the streets. You know, nobody told us how to use that thing properly.
I know how.
You're serious?
Every safe, good driver knows about these things. As a driver, you have to be very...
Welcome back. It's To The Point for today, Monday, the 15th day of August, and we've been chatting this morning with Pierre, Mr. Arthur Pierre from NAGMA, and this time around, he has a guest with him. That's Oslyn Crosby, who's also part of NAGMA. We're going to have a continued discussion, and we're going to take your phone calls also for you listeners and the viewers out there. The number you can call if you do have a question or two that you would like to ask the folks at NAGMA, that's 435-2041. That's 435-2041. So let's go back and say good morning and welcome back once again to Arthur and Oslyn. I hope you guys don't mind talking on a first name basis. Good morning to you folks.
That's quite all right.
We do have a caller online. Let's take our very first caller and then we get back into a little chit chat. We just want to take about 2 or 3 calls and get back to our conversation. Let's see what this caller has to offer. Caller, good morning. How are you?
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, good morning. Mr. Pierre, good morning. I just calling to just find out from Mr. Pierre that what's about communications after a weather or what the case may be, and then all telephone lines down. How could you get in touch with NADMA, and does Mr. Pierre, does you all provide radios for whosoever in the shelters, so could call and find out what is happening and what? I just want to know that from you, Mr. Pierre. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, caller. Thank you.
And that's a very good question.
Actually, it's one of the questions I had all lined up for you also. When the caller can I get it, and I was going to get it.
We're not hearing you very clearly.
No, I was saying it was actually one of the questions that I had lined up for you, but the caller got it in, so maybe you could certainly go ahead and answer that in terms of the communication part of things with NAGMA. Go ahead.
Of course, if there is a hurricane or so, we can expect down lines, telephone communication, and so you may even have a couple cell sites down. So communication becomes critical.
Mm-hmm.
Now we do have radios. All right, and when shelters and so are activated, shelter managers, the district coordinators, they will be provided with a mobile radio so that communication, is done. Further to that, there is a whole system now, a brand new system that NAGMA is a part of, that is able to communicate with police, with the hospital, with all the stakeholders that are necessary in terms of response for a disaster. Now, of course, it is new.
Yeah.
There will be some teething problems, okay, as we could expect in everything new. But we have a number of persons have been trained, not just personnel from NADMA, but across the island have been trained. There's a lot more training to be done, and there are more equipment to be had. So that is happening even as we speak. Okay, but you can expect radios to be used in case we have a situation where communication becomes a problem.
Okay.
Further to that, we are also tapping in and are asking our coordinators within our districts to identify persons who may have ham radios, all our ham radio operators and so, to be part and parcel of that communication mechanism to respond in case of the onset of a hazard or so.
Okay.
All right. So again, it is not just about NADMA, but again, as I said very early in the game, it's about the general population putting hands on to assist in being able to respond properly to a disaster if that is what we can consider to be.
All right. We do have another caller, and in terms of the communication, a couple of weeks ago I did have a conversation with Superintendent Wilson, and he was actually explaining that whole process of the new communication system that was put in place pertaining that the police have, and Magna is also being part of it. We do have another caller. Caller, good morning. How are you?
Hi, good morning. Good morning, Arthur.
Good morning.
Good morning, GT. Listen, I just wish that we would use language to suit the situation that we are in, okay? I'm hearing too many instances of people is. Well, what is that? Come on.
All right, caller. Not sure where the caller is.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, caller, for your information there. And so we're moving on. Let's go over and say good morning to Oslyn. Oslyn, thanks for being with us once again. And how are you this morning? I'm not sure in terms of getting you clearly in this morning. I'm not sure. But welcome, Oslyn. So your part at NOSMA, as always, is in terms of the communication part of it, where we always see when there's a hazard, as Mr. Otto was mentioning earlier, in terms of when there's you're the one that seems to always share that particular part of the communication aspect of NOSMA. Tell us more about that, Oslyn.
So GTS, I am your spokesperson, the person responsible for sharing the information as the public relations officer, and that is different to that of our communications officer. Normally, some people would say communications, but it's different in disaster management. Communications do a lot with what we were speaking about a while ago, that Arthur spoke about, that system that exists within the police, between the police, NADMA, and our other essential service providers, that of Met Office, some of these people are districts, and so that is communication. So it deals with our radio. I deal with the information sharing part of it. So whenever we have a pending threat, then you will see a release from NADMA. And moving forward, one of the things that we are hoping we can share on is how NADMA works. I think the last incident that happened with that freak system is one that we got a lot of flack for, but not necessarily it was not necessarily our one to be blamed, rather. I think we must all appreciate that the weather is one that is very dynamic. It starts now, for example, I'm going to use a most recent example. On the weekend, I saw a number of people putting up on their WhatsApp that there was a system that will be affecting us. There was 2 tropical waves in the area. I saw some of the people who follow the weather saying that we will get rain Friday night into Saturday, or Saturday into Sunday. And then by Saturday, I saw somebody put up, well, Jarrelli is a Grenadian. Because then on Friday, we had the big mass over us showing the cloud cover and so. But Met did not inform us. I know for sure that they did send a message in, let us pay attention to the outlook. But we know that we can trust their judgment. Right. They did not say anything, so we continue to monitor. And then on Saturday, I saw that we were completely clear, and somebody's asking if Jai is a Grenadian. And it is I'm using this example to show that sometimes people would give NADMA flack or the Met Office. But it is from time to time kind of difficult to predict something that you will not see, or the capabilities, the system that you have does not give you that opportunity. It is nature. It works on its own mind with its own plan. And there are so many external forces that can change circumstances within a very short space of time. So we want people to be a little more understanding on that basis. And the need to always be prepared is critical. And that is the reason why I think for us, what's most important is that we are within the hurricane season. These conditions we expect around this time. So it is the reason why we always say before the season starts, some of the things that you can do, some of the things that you should engage your family in, your neighborhood, your business, because all of these areas fall under your livelihoods and your property, and they are critical to us being comfortable, being able to live our lives. So it's important. I just wanted to share that this morning. Sometimes things don't go as planned, but as we do receive the information, we will share. That is one part. But more so, we continue to implore and encourage the public. Be prepared at all times. to me, that was my takeaway from the incident at the end of, just around the wrapping up the end of July there, that the need always be prepared. Start the conversation with your family if you have not done so as yet. And it's very simple. We don't want you to feel as though it is something that is very complex. That is not the case. It's a conversation. Everybody know their responsibilities. Everybody know where we will be going if something were to happen. And that kind of information that helps us. For example, the little things that we do at home. We always tell our children, don't go close to the fire. Let us use that now in a hurricane preparedness setting. And we say, ensure that you have your emergency kit ready. These are the little things that can make a difference. And those are the things that we want you to practice, Let's put them in practice. Let's rotate them, start the conversation. So at least when we do have these pop-up systems, these freak systems that do give us that kind of condition that we don't expect, that we can say, okay, I was ready. Or you have to come to you at short notice and say so. Then we can say, all right, I don't need to worry because I've put everything in place. Everything is in motion. So let the season go through as it should. And let's remind the population, we are wrapping up August. Today's the 15th. We're in the middle of the month. September is coming. It is usually predicted to be our most active month in the season. So we are about to go there. If you have not done what you should have done before, use the time now to prepare.
All right. Hey, Oslyn, and also we're just about a minute left on the show this morning, and I certainly want to thank you folks for popping in this morning. Lots of information been shared this morning in terms of preparedness. The author did speak about that, the plans in terms of shelter. We did have, of course, author did speak also in terms of the encouraging folks to volunteer their time and their skills per se with NAGMA. We just had Oslyn, of course, giving us a summary in terms of the communication aspects of things, how they should go about, and how NAGMA do go about is because when they receive information, that's how they can share it. And so we appreciate that whole. I'm not sure if there's any closing statements both of you would like to give as we wrap the show up this morning.
Well, pay attention to what's going on. Listen to your radio. NAGMA still is the official voice for disaster management. Okay. Pay attention to the bulletins when they come out. Prepare. Get your batteries, get your tin stuff, put your documents together, buy a couple more garbage bags and hold at home just in case you have to put things in garbage bags. Do all what you need to do to prepare. All right. If you need further information, you can call NAGMA for 8391, 8392, 8393, 8394. Call, somebody will be able to give you some more assistance, some guidance as we go further into the hurricane season. And I wish persons all the best, have a very safe and fully prepared rest of the hurricane season. Over to Ms. Crosby.
I am going to add here to Mr. Pierre's admonishment and also continue to encourage us to be mindful of this. NAGMA is the official voice of anything disaster related in Grenada. I think we do get all our technical advice from the Met Office as relates to the weather, because they are our focal point. They are the experts in that field. And I want us to continue to encourage them. Yes, they are our own. They do an excellent job in monitoring, advising us. As we said, the weather is dynamic, so we cannot hold them to heart for it. Things will change, and as they change, we will share. But the continued growth and your suggestions on how we can improve the product or improve how we deliver that service to you is key. And we want to say thank you to the general public for always sharing. We do appreciate. We want to continue to encourage you. Go onto our Facebook page. We share all the bulletins there. Another authentic site is that of Spice Weather. He is associated with the Met Office. He works there. So we do work along with Spice Weather on this. So when you see, it is safe to share information from Spice Weather and NAGMA's Facebook page. So we encourage all to continue to be safe, and be prepared. Continue to do what you do to ensure that we can protect life, livelihoods, and property during this hurricane season.
All right. Oslyn and Otto, once again, I want to thank you both for sharing information with us this morning. It's definitely fruitful information. And as you said, as we go through the season, so hopefully we could, of course, have more conversations pertaining to, just in case there's any issue out there that will affect and you would like to get information out, we at GBL will certainly accommodate you. Thanks once again.
Thank you. Have a blessed one.
You too. Hey, folks, that's where we come to the end of To The Point for today, Monday the 15th day of August. I want to say goodbye to our television viewers, our listeners via K105. Of course, our viewers via our social media platform this morning. Facebook, want to say thank you once again. All the best until we do this again tomorrow. That's where we say goodbye for To The Point.